Welcome to the Joe Podcast.
Welcome back, attorney.
Pleased to be back here, Joe.
So tell me more about the Philippine debt. Tell me if I'm wrong, but isn't it already nearing 10 trillion pesos?
Yes, actually, as of August, the Philippines already has about 9.6 trillion pesos in debt, including both external and domestic.
Wow.
Yes, and
So could we ever repay that?
hypothetically, each Filipino has been given the equal burden of paying part of the country's debt. Then every Filipino would have to cough up more than 90,000 pesos. But realistically,
Wow. So wait, I think we might have started a bit too strong here. Everybody, please welcome Attorney Mel. Well, today you're here to talk about Philippine debt. And first of all, should we be worried about it?
well, speaking realistically here, I would say we shouldn't have to worry about it too much.
And why is that?
Well, see, there's a thing called debt to GDP ratio, which basically means that the lower the ratio is, the better a country can handle paying off its debts in respect of its GDP. According to the Department of Finance, the Philippines has a debt to GDP ratio of 48.1% after the first half of 2020.
So, is that good or bad?
Well, in short, the Philippines is actually more than capable of paying off its debts. Some economists might even say that the Philippines still has plenty of capability to borrow more.
How come? What about other countries? What are their debt to GDP ratios?
Well, in Japan, they have around maybe 238%.
238%. Isn't that bad?
Actually, because Japan's debt almost only comes from domestic holders, it is actually not very disadvantageous to them. However, in Greece, even though they only have about 182%, considerably lower than Japan, most of it came from foreign holders, causing an extremely damaging economic slowdown in the country.
Oh, yeah. I get it.
Yes, in the Philippines case, about two-thirds of its total debt funds from domestic creditors, which could be better, but it doesn't really spell it that way.
So, talking about debt, how can the government pay for it again?
Well, continuing from what I said before, a direct quote from Finance Secretary Carlos Dominguez says, the repayment will come from our taxes in the future, and our taxes will come from healthier Filipinos working from returned economic growth starting next year. So the debt is very manageable and it is affordable for us, which I think is a, if you think about it, pretty logical but stupid.
What do you think specifically is the government doing in terms of paying its debt?
Actually, according to our government's finance department, the country doesn't plan on suspending debt payments since it risks the country's credibility to international holders, damaging the future of the country. In terms of payment, I think the National Treasury plans to sell T-bonds and T-bills, which are basically safe IOUs, which attracts creditors looking for secure investments.
Continuing to our main topic, what do you suggest, Attorney Mel? Can the government take action in to repay its debt?
You know me, Joe. I'm an advocate for agriculture business, and I think the Philippines investing in developing its agricultural business and not only provide secure backing in case of economic crisis, talking about this pandemic, but also enrich environmental awareness.
What do you mean by secure backing?
What I mean is that since before the Spanish colonial era, the Philippines has always been a major source of natural resources. As more and more countries focus more and more on industrialization, less are actually having enough resources in order to maintain their own agricultural businesses, leading them to depend mostly on agricultural imports. This could be the gold mine the Philippines might hit if we continue in this agricultural path.
What about the Philippines' industrialization? Won't this hurt our own economy?
Currently, the Philippines is a long way from developing its agricultural business today as it was in the past. In recent years, the Philippines has been actually lagging behind agricultural exports compared to other ASEAN countries. The Philippines has great potential in agri-exports, but as it is today, it is up to the government to decide the path our country takes.
Definitely. In regards to the future of this country, we will get there when we get there.
Yes.
Oh, before you go, Attorney Mel, do you have any tips for our viewers and listeners, especially during this trying time of the coronavirus?
First of all, remember to follow all the health guidelines. A tip to our unemployed listeners: focus on the present. Think of something you are good at and think of ways to monetize it. There is no rush. Take your time in recovery.
Yes, and remember to find and use any resources you can. What you're doing is for your family.
Also, don't forget to tune into the news.
And to the Joe Podcast, where you can get your latest updates and information by the people for the people. Well, thank you for coming in today at Tournament. I hope our viewers and listeners learned a lot. Well, I learned a lot.
As always, thank you for having me, Joe.
They tremble yet.